Hi there, this is Janice Russell, and today's topic for Facebook Live is dealing with life transitions, a framework for success. And in case that didn't take, I'll do that again. Janice Russell, dealing with life transitions, a framework for success. So, when we're talking about dealing with life transitions, we are talking about a puzzle. And if you're a puzzle person, you may prefer to have, the box with the picture on the front as you're doing it, or you may not really care about that and like to do it all from scratch, as it were. You may be someone who takes the corner pieces first and then does the edges before they start in the middle, or it may not matter to you. You may like easier puzzles, harder puzzles. You may even like the puzzles that have like, tons of different, very similar colors. But for me and for many people, it is easier with the picture, at least to a certain extent. But like I said, if the picture happens to have, tons of little pieces and they're all similar, they can still be challenging to get the puzzle done. So what I'm going to be doing in this video is giving you basically the corner pieces and the edge of the framework for the life transitions puzzle. So we're going to start by talking about sort of how and when do life transitions occur. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you right here up front that the reason why I'm going through this information is because having context for life transitions really helps with the process. So I'm going to talk about, first of all, again, how and when your life transition arrived. And I'm going to give some examples along the way. So let's look at the first piece of our puzzle. And that is our transition welcome or not welcome? So let's take COVID-19 as an example. So not a welcome thing for most people, especially not the actual virus part of it. However, there were some people that are pretty happy staying home alone and not having to go out a whole lot. So for them, it may be more welcome. But for most other people, it's a fairly negative thing. They're angry or frustrated about it, and really not welcome and would like to slam the door on it as soon as possible. So our next little piece of how and when did it arrive is the unexpected versus expected. So, overall, COVID-19 was unexpected. I mean, it was not anyone's horizon until we started hearing a little bit about it. Once we found out that it moved, to different countries and things like that in the U.S., we came to expect that it was going to get here eventually. And I'm not talking about the restrictions or anything, I'm just talking about the virus itself. But overall, worldwide, yeah, nobody was expecting a pandemic to happen. The next thing to look into is it temporary or permanent? Now, COVID-19 is temporary as far as the pervasive nature of it right now. We would like it to be even more temporary and, leave today would be good. However, there's a little bit of a permanent nature to it because it's a virus. And so we'll be able to manage the virus once we get a vaccine, but it won't actually ever go away. So technically it's permanent, but we really do want to think about it in terms of temporary because it can be managed at some point, hopefully very soon. And the last piece to this particular part of the puzzle is it instantaneous or gradual? Well, in this case with COVID-19, it's sort of in between because it was gradual when it started up, and then once it really blossomed or bloomed, I guess. It does sound too positive, but anyway, it became sort of an instantaneous, it took over everywhere. So all of these are continuums, and some of them, obviously have more of a continuum nature than others. But that's for COVID-19. Now, because life transitions aren't always about COVID-19, I am going to give you another set of examples here with those same criteria. So the welcome versus not welcome. Now, a couple of years ago, I had a knee replacement. Believe it or not, that was actually a welcome thing. It was something I was excited about. It was a positive thing because I'd known for a long time. So here's the expected part. I had known for a long time that I was going to need one at some point. So it was very welcome. Now, the hysterectomy I ended up needing later that very same calendar year, totally unexpected. And not I mean, there's sort of a positive nature to it and a negative nature. In the end, it was welcome, but it was not expected. For a slightly different example, let's look at temporary versus permanent. So let's say you have a fall and you break a bone. Well, you know, it might take 2 months for that to heal and life goes on. So it's a temporary thing, albeit a longer temporary thing. More permanent could be from that same fall, instead of just being something that, you know, you can put a cast on and have some physical therapy for, it could lead to lifelong nerve damage. So it would become more of a permanent nature. Now, another example for the instantaneous versus gradual, let's talk a moment about memory issues. Now, if you are in some kind of an accident, then you might get a brain injury, which would be an instantaneous onset, or, within the first few days after the accident, versus if you have age-related dementia or other kind of cognitive impairment that comes along with aging often. So that is more of the gradual onset, although sometimes it seems a little bit instantaneous, but usually it's really not. It happens a little bit over time. So again, that's the how and when did it arrive. Now, the other piece to know about life transitions, well, there are lots of things to know about life transitions, but the other piece I'm going to talk about right now is sort of the where is it taking place, what part of life is it in. These are sort of the broad categories where some kind of status in your life is different than it was previously. And it is possible for multiple categories to be happening simultaneously. So if we look at life stages, for that, I'm talking about everything from the beginning or ending of a serious relationship to birth or adoption of a child, to the death of a friend or loved one, retirement, caring for aging parents. I think you get the gist. It could go on. The list could go on. In the personal realm, I'm talking about things like moving, having a major car accident, having a weather-related emergency. And I'm not talking about just the thunderstorms we get here in the southern US in the summer. I'm talking more things like hurricane fire, things that have a much longer lasting if you are actually struck by it or hit by it or affected by it. It has a much longer time frame and really does create a big life transition for you. So life stage, just so we have our cheat sheet, if I can ever get them in the right order. Okay, so broad categories, life stage. So personal, I just talked about that as well. Health related. So that can be everything from a new diagnosis to a change in some existing diagnosis. And the broad categories I'll put out there are autoimmune diseases, brain-related disorders, or body-based conditions. And that covers a whole lot of room, but those are all health-related changes. And then your work life. So in the work life, there's everything from the new job, in which probably you're using some of the same skills, maybe some of, some new responsibilities, not very new though. So it's mainly the same basic skills, but you're at a new company. So new responsibilities. you are at the same company, or you could be at a different company and maybe you've been promoted, or even if you've done a lateral shift, that you'll have some new responsibilities. And then there is the new career, the actual career change. So again, three sort of different areas within the work life. And those examples didn't even include, if you go from, say, a job where you're reporting to someone to starting a business, or becoming a partner with someone to start a business, or things like that. So these are sort of those broad categories. And again, they can really overlap. So for example, if you retire, you might decide to downsize. So retirement would be a life stage. Downsizing means moving, so that's in the personal realm. And of course, if you've retired, that's also a change in your work life. And you can semi-retire, which then also is a change in your work life, though not quite as much as full retirement. So you can have multiple things going on at any given time when it comes to life transitions. And this has become, over the past couple of years, really an area that is so important. And I think that a lot of people don't necessarily realize how important it is to even just understand this basic information. And like I said briefly at the beginning, it's because it helps to put things into a context. So often we're like, okay, I've moved. And moving, in our head, we go, I packed boxes, I took them to another place, I unpacked them. And we don't remember all of the other things that are going on. So, and again, even if you know exactly what you're doing as far as the move, I bet there are going to be some unexpected or unwelcome things that happen. Even getting to the move, it's possible that you were unexpectedly and not welcomely laid off from a job. And then maybe you got another job, but that required a move and then new job responsibilities. So for me and for other people who like to see the puzzle, some of us like to see more of the puzzle than others, but um, having these little pieces in place lets me sort of monitor where things are, also monitor yourself or myself in terms of, sort of how well you're accepting what's going on in the particular life transition, or helping someone else. So if you happen to be caring for aging parents, I am, as are a number of other people in different capacities for doing that. That is usually expected, but it throws a kink into lots of other things in your schedule and in your daily life. So that's why I like to put together some frameworks and just bring it to people's attention, because so often things just happen and we just try to incorporate them and move along, and then we wonder why things aren't quite working the way they used to. I'm going to be covering over the next few weeks or so a number of other topics related to life transitions. And one of the first things I'm going to address is the difference between change and transition when it comes to life transitions. So if you have questions or comments about that, I would love to see those in the comment section. Also, if you have other things that you're wondering about life transitions and how they impact our stuff and our time and our schedule and our tasks, feel free to put that in there as well, because I will be continuing to do Facebook Lives and want to make sure that they are applicable to you, and that they give you some information that you can use going forward. Now, if you happen to be seeing this live this time, but maybe next time you don't know when it's going to be, because right now I don't know when it's going to be except next week, you can also go over to the Life Transitions Organizing page on Facebook, because they will all be posted there, as well as on my own timeline, as well as over on YouTube at some point. Also under the Life Transitions Organizing name, as it were. So Janice Russell, so happy actually to talk to you and give you this little bit of a framework or sort of that, the corner and edges of the puzzle so that you can understand a little bit more about what's going on, whether it is related to this current time of COVID or some other life transition that may be going on during the very same time or that may be going on at some point later in your life. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll be back sometime soon.